Path Media. I was a minimum wage movie theater usher that made good and became a top earner in my network marketing company. Now, after 16 plus years in the profession, I'm finally teaching myself how to leverage the internet with online marketing and social media marketing to continue to grow and expand my business. My name is Ronnie Cruz, and this is Path of the Network Marketer.
All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm going to ask the question, are you really listening? Are you really listening? So important, so important. I studied communication in college, because the theater department was part of the communication department. So, I had to take some core communication classes, and I really loved those classes because it part of I think the beauty of the human experience and what sets us apart as a species on this planet is our ability to communicate and conceptualize our ideas and form them into language that we can share with each other, right? That language, obviously, there's other languages beyond direct spoken language and written language. There's body language, and there's music that you can communicate through. There's art, but specifically speaking of spoken language and written language, well, especially spoken language, I discovered, or at least my observation over the years, and this is not anything new. My observation of communication is that people generally don't listen as well as they think they do, right? It's really an important part of communication. I think maybe the more important part of communication. And we always hear and read quotes on the internet saying, listening is more important. You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Things like that, right? Are you listening to respond, or are you listening to react, or are you listening to hear what the person is saying, or are you listening to react? Things like that, and those are important, right? Those are important. They kind of touch on the importance of listening as really the major part of communication. And so I wanted to bring that up, right? Like, are you really listening? And to kind of snap you out of it's almost a stupor that we get into when we're having conversations with people, because this is really important as an influencer, as a person of growing influence online in your organization, whether it's a network marketing business or traditional business. Your ability to communicate is going to be, it's essential, it's critical, right? And the more effective a communicator you are, the more effective and you'll be as a leader. The more effective a listener you are is actually what makes you a better communicator. So it's really, it rests on your ability to listen and understand. None of that is going to happen if you're too busy having a conversation in your head, right? Right? If you're too busy, again, the saying is, are you listening to hear and understand, or are you listening to respond? If you're too busy having a conversation in your head, trying to think of what you're going to say next, or you're hashing out the idea or the question, or trying to think of your answer and your response, you're not really hearing. Right? Because you can only think one thought at a time. You can't think two thoughts at a time. And so if you're having a conversation with yourself in your head about what you're going to say or how you're going to respond, then you're not really listening and hearing what the other person is saying, and therefore automatically your comprehension decreases dramatically. Right? So at the very surface level of it, your comprehension is affected by you not really paying attention, right? If you're too busy having a conversation in your head, then your comprehension of everything is decreased dramatically. And if your comprehension is low, then you're not going to be able to be effective as a leader, as a business person. You're not going to be really effective, as effective as you can be, because your understanding of everything is really, really poor, because you've been too busy having a conversation in your head, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is then, well, if you're not listening, then you'll have no idea how to serve the individual that you're talking to. You'll have no idea actually how to communicate back, or whether or not the thing that you're telling, the conversation you're having in your head is even pertinent to what the person is saying. I've sat witness to so many conversations where the individuals are talking about two completely different things, and they'll do this for like 15, 30 minutes, talking about two completely different things, but thinking that they're having an actual conversation, right? And it's because neither of them are listening to each other. They're busy having a conversation in their head and planning out what they're going to respond to, and they've completely missed everything that the other person is saying. Again, the comprehension is already poor, and then you add to that the fact that they actually haven't heard anything the other person is saying. It's completely pointless and useless. It kind of drives me a little crazy. It's a little bit of a pet peeve because it's a huge waste of time, and efficiency is out the window. But that not beyond just like productivity and efficiency, your ability to do anything and to function with society, let alone build a business, let alone create influence on the internet or with other people, with a growing team in your organization, it's out the door. It's out the door. So get out of your own head. Stop having a conversation with yourself. Stop hashing it out in your mind, and just sit and be present and listen to what the other person is saying. That's always been, I hate to say it, but I've always prided myself on my ability to be a good communicator. And it's because I listen. I stop and I pay enough attention, and I just hone in on the individual, and I ignore everything else, especially everything that's going on in my mind, until I'm certain that I understand completely where that person is coming from. And I'll even go through the trouble of asking if I'm not sure I understand. That's really being attentive. That's really being present with the person. If you're too busy thinking thoughts and having a conversation in your head about what you're going to say, then you're not really being present, and that's not really being fair to the individual that you're spending time with. What's the point anyways? Right? If you're not going to give them your undivided attention, if you're not going to be there, if you're not going to be present, if you're just going to be in your head, then just hang out by yourself until you can get control of your own thoughts. And that's what it really is, right? It's controlling your own headspace, and being in charge of your thoughts, right? Being in the driver's seat. So few people actually practice this, and it is a practice. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's something that comes naturally to me. It's something that I've worked on over the years, the fact that I was willing to put that work in has allowed me to really become an effective communicator. So if that's what you want to be, which I think everybody that listens to this show and that follows me on social, if your goal is to grow a business or to grow a presence online, to be a leader in your network marketing space, or whatever it happens to be an influencer, then you got to really work on your skills as to be an effective communicator, and a huge part of that is listening. A huge part of that is listening. So ask yourself, stop yourself. If you got 100 thoughts going through your mind, or your conversation, your voice in your head is going at 100 miles an hour, just stop yourself real quick and ask yourself, am I really listening? Right? Snap yourself out of it, and get used to doing that, because you got to get out of your own head, get in the present moment, be there with that individual so that you can receive their message, and so that you can understand where they're coming from. So that's my message for today. Hopefully you were listening. If not, there's more from me tomorrow. And of course, we can have more conversations like this in our community page, facebook.com/group/path of the network marketer. The link is in the comments section below. You can just join us, and we can have further conversations. There's much more exclusive content there, it's exclusive. It's exclusive. The higher level stuff, I have higher level conversations there with the community than I do anywhere else on the internet right now at this point. So you're going to want to be part of that community. Again, the link is in the show notes of this episode. So until then, until tomorrow, which is the next episode, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.